Hi, friends. I'm Shankar Hemari, and it's really nice again to do another episode of Soaring Through Chaos. As I mentioned before, the main purpose of these interviews and these conversations is to really find ways in which we can go through the crisis that we are in, or anybody going through any kind of chaos in their life, and how they can grow with it. Survival is a must, but beyond survival, is it possible to focus on what's important in life and to grow with it and to get to the next level of our evolution, so to speak? So here with me is a dear friend I got to know online. She's the first person I'm talking to who I've only known online, haven't met yet, but we got to know through a series of meetings, through a series of conversations, and it's really nice to talk to Aliki Ko about her life, her journey, and what she has to say about how we can all grow through the challenges that we are in. Aliki, tell us about your life and how you ended up doing what you're doing now, the mindful
Oh, wow.
experience.
Hi, Shankar. It's good to talk to you again. Oh, God. Where should I start? Like, seriously, it has been already 7 or 8 lives condensed in one, and I'm not even, I'm under 40. Imagine that. So, oof. Um, there is always like, there is one moment in your life that you stop complaining about what has happened and you start looking at what all of the difficulties or struggles allowed you to become.
Mhm.
So that for me came actually because of a book that they were suggesting to go through this process, and it's like a wonderful book. It's called The Celestine Prophecy. Probably you know it. And one
Oh,
of
the one
them,
by James Redfield, Celestine
yeah,
Prophecy. Okay.
beautiful book. And one of the recommendations actually just go back and check why you have chosen as a soul like your parents, and what did they teach you. So why did you choose these parents and not somebody else to be the starting of your journey, right? So by the time you start looking at your life like that, it completely changes the whole approach. So what brought me here? Everything. Like it couldn't have, it couldn't have been otherwise, in a way. um I always knew that I will end up at some point being an entrepreneur, just because I'm not a very good employee. I'm really stubborn. If I don't like something, I will not do it. It doesn't matter if my boss wants it. So this is not really a very good employee, as you can imagine, right? So it was, but to tell you the truth, it really took me a very long time to be able to believe in myself that I could be an entrepreneur, because none of my family are entrepreneurs. So in our family, it's very hardwired the monthly salary way of gaining your life, right? And I thought it would be easier, but it really took me quite a lot of time to be able to understand how should the mindset of entrepreneur be. And that's the most important, like not really opening the company. That was the fastest thing that I had ever done. But the whole process of actually being able to understand how to function in that way, it's still going on. So yeah, I don't know. It was just at some point, like it seems that you don't even choose your next step somehow. They just come to you. They're just there and you just have to take the next step. It's not even a goal setting or a choice anymore. It's just there. And that's how it came practically, this whole transition from from working into construction into being a spiritual business. It was quite a lot of it. That happened like in less than a year, so it was like quite a lot of the transition, as you can imagine.
What's interesting is the way Rehan, Allah, who connected us, introduced me. He said, "Oh, there's somebody just like you. She doesn't look like you. She's not your age, but she's doing something similar. Consciousness, spirituality, business, and entrepreneurship all together. And you must talk to her." So I'm like, okay. And then before we know it, he connects us. And then the next thing you call me to do a short interview, and then we get into working with women in awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing things happen in such a short time.
Yeah.
So, what made you bring these things together? I mean, I think you were an architect earlier. in Greece and in Spain and in many other countries. You seem to have traveled through several different realms, as you said, several different lifetimes. And then how did you combine all that together?
So since a very young age, actually, I have been in
And you grew
between
up in
worlds.
Greece, is that correct?
I grew up in Greece. I studied in
And you had a
Greece.
journey through many places.
Sorry?
And you had a journey through many, many nations.
Yeah, so I grew up in Greece. I studied in Greece, and actually, until my 20s, I was really unable to plan any trip for many reasons, some financial, some psychological. So actually, the first time that I mean, not the first time I got out of the country. I was out of the country with my parents when I was really young, right? But then it was a very big time that I didn't travel at all. And then when I turned 20, I actually moved to Spain for 1 year for Erasmus. So that was like quite a big of a jump, as you can imagine. And it was magnificent, like literally. I remember that was the first time that I really felt that I could be myself, like ever. For the first time in 20 years, right? So I was never imagining that it's even possible to be able to express yourself exactly how you want. And when I realized that, it was pretty clear that I will just never go back to Greece, or at least I will not. It will take like quite a lot of time, a lot of years before I go back, and that's how it is. After that, by the time you realize that whenever you move countries, you can actually redefine yourself, and you can actually allow yourself to leave behind the things that you don't like about yourself and acquire new abilities. And also that the new countries will transform you, wanting it or not, into a different person, because you'll have to go through struggles, because you'll have to learn to survive, and you will have to learn to become friendly while you're struggling, and being able to make friends in a language that you don't speak very well. And all of that really, really shapes you, so it kind of becomes a little bit addictive. It's an extremely interesting process. It's a process of very fast growth, and it's tough, right? It's really tough in the beginning. But on the same time, when you see how much you change and how much you learn, it really feels good that you have really done something different, like that you have really managed to become a different person. And that's how it came. And it took me 5 countries before I realized that I will never find peace if I don't search it inside. Because every time I was uneasy, I was changing country.
So which places did you go to? And
So I was for 1 year in Madrid, in Spain. I was half a year in Berlin, in Germany. I was for half a year in Costa Rica, in San Jose. And I was for 3 years in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, and 3 years in Switzerland, which is like my last country.
Was it just like a visitor, or were you doing specific things in all these places? What engaged you in all these places?
No, it was pure jumping into the whole thing. I was going there to search for a job and an apartment and leave. It was like full on. Like
Wow.
in all of them, except from Switzerland, I learned the language also. German is still not my thing, but in all of them, I had to learn the language. I learned the language. I really had like local friends. It was really a deep dive. It was not at all this type of corporate travel. There was nobody backing me up. There was no company bringing me there. It was me going alone. So it was quite kind of like hardcore, but extremely interesting, as you can imagine.
Wow, that takes a lot of courage. And I know that by the time I got to talk to you, you were away from, again, your comfort zone in Pakistan. That is the last few months. Can you tell a little bit about that journey and how and what it meant to you? Because it must be fresh in your memory.
So there's one thing, first of all, that I will have to make clear. By now, this is my comfort zone.
Wow.
Out of my comfort zone for me is actually to stay stable and investing in one country. This is out of my zone right now, because the comfort zones change according to what you have done many times in your life.
That's
so
right.
Sometimes, yeah, we have to really consider which is our comfort zone, and if we want to grow like out of it, right? I mean, when I really grew out of my comfort zone was when I decided to stay in Switzerland. Actually, like that was like 2 years ago, and I was after my first year there, and I wanted to leave, and I was not feeling okay, and for many reasons, some of them physical also. I decided to stay, and I decided to invest in Switzerland. And I was really, really in Switzerland for 3 years. Like I was really, really investing there. So that was out of my comfort zone, to tell you the truth. Pakistan was, I mean, it was different and it's a different country, but I know how to navigate in these situations. I have done it many times. So, yeah. Still a very interesting experience for other reasons. It always is, right?
Yes, in fact, many of my viewers and definitely many of my friends are into traveling, into journeys around the world, not just for visiting, not just as visitors, but to go and live there, to learn about it. So I'm hoping that they get a chance to hear you and share their journeys as well. So tell me a little bit about that. What you mentioned, it's like each time you go to a completely new place, you have to learn the language, you have to learn to express yourself. Then you get an opportunity to share what didn't work in the past and to evolve. So tell us about, can you give any examples of such evolution and how it has made a like permanent change in you and difference in your life? Can you give any such examples?
So I remember before going to Brazil, I mean, all of my moves were I mean, if I think of them right now, they were quite risky. There was really no backup plan, right? There was, yeah. But one of the most extreme was actually the one from Greece to Brazil. I was in Costa Rica before, and then I came back to Greece, stayed for like 2 or 3 months, and then I went to Brazil. And that was the most extreme because I really knew nothing about the language. I was not even speaking words in Portuguese. I had nobody there. And actually, I didn't really check the conditions. So I landed there 3 months before the World Cup. And it was just
Oh,
impossible to find an apartment. It was just impossible. Because all of them were just rented for the World Cup and for the summer, for everybody who was coming to that. But I was literally, I was sleeping in couch surfing people until like for 4 months. And I had like the keys of my job before of the keys of an apartment. I was living in hostels and had to change hostel after work and then going like to work with my luggage. Like it was tough. But I remember that before flying to Brazil, I have told to myself practically that if I can make it in Brazil, I will be able to make it everywhere. and and it took me a while. I have to tell you, it took me a year to really be okay in Brazil. It was a very tough experience, from job to health to finance to apartment, like everything was just tough. Rio is an amazing city, but if you don't have good conditions, it's still like a metropolis, right? Nobody really cares. So, but then what I realized then it was that you just have to express yourself and ask for help if you need it, And I just talked to a friend, and it was maybe the first time that I was creating these win-win collaborations that right now are like inside our vocabulary, because he wanted to move out of his apartment and he didn't want to move out alone, and he had found an apartment, he couldn't find a good roommate. And back then I didn't have the money to pay it. So I told him, like, can you back me up, like giving the deposit, and I will just be paying you slowly. And in his condition was the opposite. Like, he had quite a lot of money, but he didn't had like good company to move into an apartment. So for me, it was practically like really saving my ass, because I had really no place to live back then. It was a very weird situation. And that made me realize that it's not actually bad to just express that you are in a difficult condition and that you need help, you know. I was always like the person that I would never ask for anything, you know, like not even single penny or anything, just because, yeah. So that was very interesting to see and to realize. And then I don't know, there are just so many small experiences that if you put them all together, they make a lot of difference. The thing is that you don't really realize how you change. What happens is that at some point you just find yourself doing so much more of what you would be doing, and you just look back and you're like, oh wow. I mean last year, this period of time, like 1 year ago, right? It's just 1 year. I was starting as an experiment on myself. I had zero audience looking at that. It was really just like me, myself in a room, just researching about biofeedback and being amazed with that, but having nobody really to share it with. Like all of my friends have nothing to do with that, you know. And 1 year later, I'm in the position to be able to make a small conscious community. Like it's just a huge jump, and it couldn't have been otherwise. Like you really have to pass all the steps to be able to get there. And yeah, it's just fun to observe. Like,
I like what you're saying, that it is not like a linear step A, step B, step C. There's no formula. And if there was one, then robots would be able to do that. You know,
exactly.
it is a non-linear process, many unpredictables, many things that you cannot say. If you do this, then you'll get this result. Um, there's no simple cause and effect relationship when it comes to shifting consciousness or evolving into a new person.
Yeah.
So tell me about what you do now. I mean, you seem to do a variety of things, but what is this whole mindful experience, and what have you been doing lately? Just share a little bit about your current work.
So Mindful Experience is practically my company, which is based in Switzerland. And the project that we are working on right now, it's called Conscious Gems. And this is like really my focus right now. It has been for the last 3 months, I mean, since when it started. I'm just trying to approach also the project in a different way. That's why you see me doing very different things. So this is, oh, my dog is waiting outside the door. so so this is practically a grid of destinations that will allow that will be hosting a conscious community that is growing right now, and will allow you to have a place to stay with like-minded people, and that will allow you to focus on your personal growth while you're living in a beautiful environment, and being able to just redesign life according to principles that we believe to be true. For example, creating abundance through the collective, right? So we are opening in less than 2 weeks in south of France. So it's going to be the very first location.
Which location would that be? Have you decided yet?
Yes, it's in southwest France.
Oh, great, great.
Yeah.
So that would be the mountains. That
no,
would be
not really.
no.
No. It's in the it's in the mainland. It's in this golden triangle between Bordeaux and Toulouse. And
wow.
Yeah, the idea is to start with a very united and very resonant small team for the first month, growing it into a bigger extended team into the second month, and allowing everybody to really experience and understand how nature works, and how we can start understanding permaculture design and biomimicry and all of these beautiful systems that connect us to the earth and the land. And then by the third month of the summer, allow us to start creating new programs and products from the knowledge that has been created from the first two, and finding a permanent location so we can really start creating the first permanent community in France.
Wow. And today's World Environment Day, so that's amazing that I'm talking to you about.
It's true. Yeah. True. Yeah, I forgot that. So yeah, it's all, I mean, we cannot move forward if we don't go back into the connection, real connection to the earth. Like we have forgotten that, and I think that has taken us that far, but we really need to ground again.
And it's interesting that you're talking about these grounded communities. I have been community hopping for the last, I would say, 3, 4 years. I have a home in San Francisco and a home in India, in Gujarat, near the near the Gandhi Ashram. But my preference is to go visit many communities, talk about them, learn from them, and share those experiences with others, hoping that people also do these journeys, take these breaks that are very necessary. When people are feeling stuck, one way is to go inwards, but it's not as easy as it seems. And another way is to go outwards on a journey. In India, the word used is yatra. Actually, go on a journey where you let go of what didn't serve and then approach what is likely to serve. Go on a spiritual journey or just a way of looking at the world differently. I'm grateful you're creating these spaces, and
Thank you.
and I guess you're not going to be grounded there forever. You will probably continue working and
So
creating spaces. Is that the idea?
to tell you the truth, for me, this project is very interesting because it has a global scale, and these allow different types of people to choose their option. So not everybody can be grounded in one specific place for a very long time, and not everybody can be moving around all the time. I mean, there are times that you need, I have seen it even from my own life. Like there were times that there was a very big inner transformation that I needed to stay stable. Like I didn't want to move at all. And I love traveling, right? And there are other times that I just love to explore the world. And the two of them are both necessary. It's like kind of like going into the cocoon and then going out to the world and going into the cocoon again, and it just keep coming and going these phases. So I feel that we cannot really talk anymore about one community that is stable and you have to stay there the whole time. I mean, it felt more like a jail to me than a freedom, right? So the invitation in that is actually to have various locations around the world, and each location of course has its own flavor according to the country where it is and according to the people who are staying more like long term. But the idea is that all of them are under the same umbrella, the same agreement, so you can actually find the small oases in many different countries, but you are able to move around and you have the freedom to travel in different countries, and also choose which is the best place for you to grow, because the land can allow you to grow completely different aspects of your character, right? So, but there are parts of our team that love to be stable in one location and really like set roots into this into this specific property, right? Which is also amazing because you do need both energies. You need the very stable one, the very grounded one, and you need the refreshing, sort of like the new ideas and the come in. If you have only one of the two, either it becomes way too strict and boring, or it doesn't ground, it doesn't happen anything, just like air, right?
Yeah.
So that's for me is the interesting combination in this project.
It's almost like we need all the 5 elements. We need the grounded, the earth, people who are stable, who really want to nurture the land. And then there are the airy ones who bring perfumes from different places and the travelers. So very, very interesting that you're doing all this.
No, it's funny that you say actually, because like on the day of the Earth, that was the 22nd of April, it actually came the download of how our structure will be, and it is based on the 5 elements. So the first location is about the earth element, and it's about permaculture. The second one is about the metal, and it's about the global village, so how you shape the world. The third one is about water, and it has to do with the exchange of resources and capital. The fifth one is the wood, and it has to do with deep detoxing, like soul detoxing. And the fifth one is it's the element of fire, and it's about different types of business. And all of them actually are holding each other and like activating each other, so you can have a stable community. So it's a multi-house and multi-elements structure.
Yeah. So given the circumstances people are in, I see that a lot of traveling has stopped. Of course, you were able to get permission to go back to your motherland, and I'm actually going towards India next because my wife is there, and because there's so much work to be done. I mean, really. So I know I'll be traveling in India for some time within the limits of the lockdown or the current situation. So, do you have any words of wisdom? Do you have any advice for people who are either wanting to do this or have done it in the past but are right now feeling stuck because of the lockdowns? Do you have any suggestions on how they can either start or restart their journey? And yeah, what would you like to say to them?
So look, the thing is, like, right now we are really, really asked to stay more stable, like more silent and more quiet, right? So even as we are moving once, but we're gonna spend the rest of the 3 months in one place, right? Straight. So I would suggest that, I mean, for me, the most interesting journey ever has been inwards. All of the trips that I have done in the world, they were not so interested as trying to understand myself. So, and this time is really perfect for that because there is this stillness in general, and this really allows you to go deeper within. So it's just perfect conditions to start exploring a little bit inside and find peace from within, because there's no peace outside. Like, there's nothing outside. It's just us projecting. So if you have a crazy life outside, check what's going on into your mind. It's probably gonna be very similar. You have a peaceful life outside, check what's going on in your mind. It might be very similar.
It's
So
interesting. Yeah, there are two
yeah.
of us who love to travel, especially at this stage in our life, and are recommending go inwards. Isn't that interesting?
Yep.
I mean, I meditate every day, at least 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening, but usually several hours of mindful activity, whether it's cooking, my latest hobby is cooking, mindfully walking, swimming, anything I do, I slow down. And so it's interesting that two of us who have been journeying around in completely different parts of the world. I now in Cuernavaca, in the Latin world for the first time in my life, in Mexico
Oh
City,
wow. Okay.
and I'm still here. It's been 3 months. I came here for a 3 week, and California went into a lockdown, and so did India. So I said, oh, instead of going to a lockdown place, might as well learn Espanol and learn to understand myself and be more grounded because that's what the times take. So tell me about any particular practice. Are you doing any specific practices when you go inward? Do you have a preference?
No, I keep changing myself. I don't know if it's the best thing to keep changing, but I'm very curious about experimenting different states of consciousness. So for me, it's kind of a research. Um, I think it's more important to actually have devote the time to whatever it's right now on your plate that has to do with growing yourself. It doesn't matter if it's a specific type of meditation or the other type of meditation. It's more you devoting these 20 minutes and also having a way of learning like more things. So just the other, like a week ago, I realized that my meditations are actually very powerful for other people, but they're outdated for me. They don't allow me to grow further. I have reached a threshold, and there is you really have to go out and search for new ways of learning. And I found a very interesting course that I'm doing right now. Because I need to challenge myself. Like, the normal meditation is not enough for me. It's like, yeah, it's just maintenance. It's not growth. So I just, yeah, there's one thing that I would love to have known when I started the whole quest. And this is that at some point in the beginning, when you start doing the self-growth path, it's tough because you have never, it's like you're opening a thing and you have never looked or cleaned inside there for 30, 40, 50 years, depending when you open it, right? And then you look at it and it's disgusting.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the thing is, like, when you start searching inside, you start finding memories and you start finding reasons, and it just becomes more interesting, and you start understanding why you like the things you like now, and you really start connecting to different aspects of yourself. And at some point, it's not a disgusting old box anymore. It's just triggering, it's triggering to understand better. And there is this moment in self-growth that it passed from being a suffering to being actually pleasant. It's like fun. And when you get to this moment, you know that you'll never stop growing, because it's just the most fun thing you have ever done in your life. But it does need a little bit of faith in the beginning, and just go with faith that you will get to this moment, because you don't feel it in the beginning. It's like you just don't see it anywhere. It's just suffering, but you get there. So yeah.
You remind me of cleaning up the closet or
Yeah.
cleaning up a dirty kitchen or something like that. If you haven't done a cleanup in a few months or a few weeks, suddenly it's just, I recently I had that experience since I'm in a new place and don't know the language. And I was hesitant. For the first time in my life, I was hesitant to go ask the security people or the gardener. They're outside the house, because I had to Google Translate every time. And my internet was not working outside the house. I couldn't Google Translate when I'm outside. And then I figured out there's an offline way of doing it. But the net result was that trash was accumulating in this large container. And I was like, oh, now the stink is going around the house. I have to do something. And then I actually learned to ask for help in a foreign language with somebody I don't know, and to be totally comfortable asking for help. And even just with gestures, they were able to understand. And they're like, I'm showing them, say, oh,
Yeah.
mal. I say, yeah, malodor, yes, odor. Then they engage. And what was interesting was I realized that, as you know, between English and Espanol, there are so many cognates, similar
Yeah.
words. That was the beginning of my journey, that it's not hard to learn Spanish. Because until then, I was looking at where do I start? I cannot even talk to people face to face because of the lockdown. And we don't have a full lockdown here, but still, people don't just go and talk to strangers anymore. They're much more, they only do it if there's a reason. And that was the beginning, that it is okay to ask for help, as you said. And
Yeah,
in a
totally.
foreign language, in a place where nobody knows me, to the point where now there are 10, 15 people around, and we've been doing workshops on the neuroscience of happiness.
Nice. Very nice.
Social distancing. And yeah, we've been doing these career classes. Young men in this neighborhood, they're like, oh, and we even had a discussion. We had a talk with Alan Watts' daughter, Ann Watts. She's a good friend of mine and a mentor. And we had a conference call like this one. And so much opened up. So I'm getting these first-hand experiences. This is my first time being in a foreign, a completely different nation, in a different, not just language, but a way of life. As you know, the Romance or Latino way of life is very different, say, than the
Yeah,
English.
I love it.
Yeah, and very different also from India, where I grew up. Both USA and India are very distinctly different cultures than what I hear. And at the same time, it adds so much a wealth of understanding as I interact with people. So yeah, I'm so grateful we are talking about all these things. Do you have any other last comments? I'm so grateful that you mentioned many of these life journeys. Is there anything, one journey that particularly stands out that you want to describe? You already talked about Brazil and the challenges
So
and the discomfort. Was there any
you
fun
want to hear a funny? You want to hear a funny fact about Brazil and what you're saying about talking to people? So in Rio, there is Brazilians from all around the country, and all of them have completely different way of talking, right? Like the pronunciation is completely different. And
Oh,
the
okay.
word pronunciations are always like the bus drivers, because usually they are from very far away. So I remember having to take a bus to somewhere, and I was really practicing at home, which is the phrase, because I will not have internet, and you have to tell him and you have to understand what he's saying, like in seconds, right? If not, you are in the wrong bus and you're going somewhere you really don't want to go in Rio, So I remember that was my biggest fear, actually, when I was in Rio. I'm like, oh my God, if I take the wrong bus, then I'm fucked. So yeah, when you're pushed to learn, you learn. You know, that's the thing. And sometimes it doesn't feel good when you're pushed, but afterwards, like the learning is beautiful.
Yeah, yes. In fact, I had a similar but interesting experiences. Not similar, but I was carrying all my luggage when I first came to Chihuahua. I was very fortunate that my host, she came and picked me up, and it felt comfortable. But when I came to Ciudad de Mexico, the capital of the country, which is the most busiest metropolitan area, one of the most densely populated cities of the world, just like Bombay or Shanghai. I was like, okay, how am I going to deal with this? The internet was flaky. It was there or it was not there. And then I asked for directions, and without knowing much Spanish. Anytime I would hear somebody speaking in English, I would just go, please, 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 I need your help. They're like, what is this guy doing? Corona times, this is not normal times. Like, why is he trying to, like, I would, and with the mask on, they're asking
Yeah.
for a mask on, or it was interesting. For the first time, I saw the shy side of me. I'm not known to be a shy person at all. For the first time, I saw hesitation.
Yeah.
And in a culture that's super expressive, you
Yeah.
know, this is not a shy culture. And
Yeah.
people
No.
went out of their way, they would help me. They would not only help me, they would say, you should ask for help. That person will help you. And this one, they would give me phone numbers of others who can help along the
Nice.
way. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was amazing. And but I mean, I admire your courage that you've gone to so many different continents and are continuing to do so, and hope to someday meet with you. Um, with that, I would love to encourage anybody who is on journeys to find your way to connect. Is there any? Can I share your contact information on social
I mean,
media?
you can always find me on Facebook.
Facebook is the best way to connect
Yeah.
with you. Great, I'll share that. And also, yeah, we want to hear from you. We want to know your journeys. I would love to talk to more people on journeys because it's rarer these days. Physical journeys have become fewer. Are you going to continue on journeys, by the way, Aliki, after this lockdown period? Or you said you will probably spend more time in this one location in France.
So I
It's-
would love to really, really, really set a strong base into this location before I move to the next one. But my role is the activation, right? So I will be going and activating the next places. I just thought it would be faster, but apparently it's a slower process, which is completely fine. But I also have to learn to be patient. So that's my journey, you know?
Being more mindful.
Yeah. And but I can see myself really activating the new locations as soon as they're ready to open. But I really cannot wait until I do have a home that I can always go back in France. Like it's just a dream that will just become true. And sometimes also your priorities change. You never know, right? Like you go for something and then something else appears and it just applies more. Who knows? But it's
And
definitely a journey.
one quick question about that, this particular space and between Toulouse and in that area, is it going to be, what kind of a revenue model? Are you going to charge fixed fees to people visiting, or is it gift economy? I'm trying to understand that because every place is unique and different.
Mhm. So we are looking at a hybrid right now. So everybody will be paying a flat rate to live there. So you just pay one price. I mean, you'll never pay this price for everything that we are offering. But anyhow, it's a like wonderful place because we were looking at the chateau type with like huge garden and forest around. And so you pay your fee, but you start gaining actually percentage of the profit after we break even. So we are actually seeing a model of every type of contribution, from your presence to your time, to your knowledge, to your financial means, to your property means, to be actually involved into model that allow everybody to offer what they have the most and take what they need the most. So that's
Wow.
what we're going to be prototyping. And that's like the long-term plan. But for now, I mean, it's pretty easy and fast forward. You just pay a monthly fee, and once you're inside there, everything is offered like in type of gift economy.
Wow, great, great. And with that, I would like to say thank you again. And for those people who want to learn more, you can either directly connect with Aliki or you can write to me. My journeys are still solo journeys so far, or sometimes I go with my wife. But there's so much to learn about oneself and about others through this whole journey. And thank you again, Aliki. I
Thank
look
you,
forward
Shankar.
maybe meeting in person someday. Who knows? Maybe in France. At this moment,
Hopefully.
I'm focused on going back to India and serving
Yeah, I can understand for
serving the
now.
motherland for some time. I've done my fair share in the US and in other places. So I'm
Totally.
almost feeling nostalgic after a while.
I can imagine. It's good to go
Yeah.
back. Thank
So
you,
great
Shankar.
again. So thank you all, and let's say goodbye to anybody watching, and please stay in touch.
Bye.